What's up guys, back with a very special video today. We are at the amazing Tubac Golf Resort. I'm joined with my granddad to explain and announce why I'm changing my YouTube channel name.
I'm curious about why you actually wanted to use that name Dogi for your web channel.
I've always loved the name. I really have, ever since I found out that was my great-grandfather's name. And I never got to meet him, and I always wanted to show honor to him, so I thought, what's better than making it that my channel name?
He would have been thrilled to death, because if he got to know you guys, he would have been so excited, because he liked to see young guys come up and do something. And he never got to play golf, but he was around a lot of it. And I know that he would have been just so thrilled to have you call it Dogi Golf. What kind of things are you going to do with Dogi Golf?
I wanted to share a lot of your stories on my channel, because I enjoy listening to it, talking about all of these things, and I really want to branch out into making a lot of videos that include you and me.
Not big honor to me, of course, and that's not a problem because I'm a big mouth, so I'll tell stories until you go home. Just make sure there's plenty of coffee and ice water around and we're good to go.
Yeah, and I want to share a lot of his paintings.
Oh, we got a lot of paintings.
Yeah. This is my granddad. Granddad, I'm going to ask you a couple questions about great-granddad Dogi. Why was he named Dogi?
When he grew up, he was a cowboy, and they didn't have anything but dirt floors and cows and horses. And eventually he went to work in a dude ranch. And when he got there, he was one of the smallest guys there, and one of the dudes at one point said, you're just like a Dogi. Well, a Dogi is actually a calf without a mother, and it runs around by itself until it mothers up to another mother cow. But somehow, like nicknames are, that nickname stuck, and he became known as Dogi Weaver. And after that, he put that name on his artwork, he put that name on everything. But that's how that name actually started with him.
That's interesting. I see that you brought some things of his. What are the story behind these spurs?
Spurs were a tool for all the cowboys, and there were various kinds of spurs. Some of the most famous are Ortega spurs, which are not these, but these are Mexican spurs, and they have these big rowels on them. And he wore these primarily if he was doing show or something like that around dudes. He also had some working spurs. And the point of spurs is not to stab the horse, it's to know how to properly touch the horse to cue him to do something. But these are pretty fancy spurs. And the way I remember these the most was that there was a horse that ran wild. He was a wild stud, and his name became Ahmed. And my dad named him Ahmed. But he caught Ahmed in the wild and brought him in and trained him. And at one point, only my dad and a guy named Buckshot Cox, actually Wade Cox, but they called him Buckshot, those two were the only ones that could deal with that horse. He wouldn't let anybody else come near him. My dad rode that horse for a long time. So I have a picture of him somewhere with these spurs on riding Ahmed.
Wow. How about this leather box? What's the story behind that?
This box actually has a lot of meaning to me, and I was so proud to give it to you guys. He carried this in his pickup truck at all times. There weren't a lot of medicines for heartburn and things at that time, so he would drink milk, and he ate oatmeal raisin cookies. He loved these oatmeal raisin cookies, and this thing would have double rows of oatmeal raisin cookies in it.
Wow.
Now that was later on. It started out as a shaving kit. So when he started out, he grew up in a place called Faith, South Dakota, and he would travel around the country, and at one point he moved to California. And so he needed a shaving kit. So this was the shaving kit. And he moved to California and trained polo horses for people like Disney and Cagney, and did most of that in Palm Springs. So this was what he started out with when he actually rode most of the way, but then picked up a car eventually. But he ended up in California, and this was what went with him everywhere. But as I came along and got to know him later, this turned into the cookie box. So as I would get into the truck and go somewhere with him, he would act like he didn't know that I would steal a cookie now and then, and it was kind of a nice moment between my dad and I. And so I was so proud that you guys ended up with this box, because it has his name on it, and it just meant a lot to me, and now I hope it means a lot to you.
How about these rings?
These are really interesting historically. You can see that they have these clips on here, and these are reins that you attach to a bridle, and you can see that it has two pieces here that go down and then one piece here, and it incorporates these tassels in the end. So as a road, you could actually use these as a quirt with the horse. But what makes these very interesting is these are called prison braid. And early 1900s and the 1800s, when somebody went to jail, they didn't have anything for men to do, or they couldn't do anything to make any money. So they had them sit around and braid things. So this is rawhide. And rawhide was just raw bull hide that you put on and then got it wet and it shrank down. And so you have rawhide here to connect this, and this is finished leather. And this was braided by prisoners in a Wyoming prison, which is why it's called prison braid. And you can't get it any more original, but if you find this old prison braid, it's fascinating to have as something you own. I brought up Ahmed before. He actually used these with Ahmed.
Wow.
And I have some more that are more beat up that I didn't bring with me. These are the nicer ones that would have gone along with when he was wearing those spurs.
Wow. How about this hat?
Okay. I've had this hat a long time, and again gave it to you guys, and inside is his name. This is the Men's Hat Club, probably in Montana somewhere, and inside is his name in here. Because he wore this hat for years and years. It was not the only hat he had, because all those cowboys had several hats, but this was the one that he had in the end when he had passed away. Again, it was something that being able to give it to you and Josiah was a special thing. So this is the hat that he wore, and you'll notice that it's a lot smaller brim than the one that I have on. And he had this made special for him, but he liked these smaller hats. And you wore them for shade, you wore them to keep the rain off of you. But this was the final hat that he had, and he wore it for a long time. You know, it's covered with my dad's sweat, and it's just a priceless old antique item to me. And again, it goes along with the box and everything else that I was able to share with you guys and not have disappear somewhere. So Riley, we've been talking a lot about my dad. We're here at this beautiful golf course, and I know you play golf. Why don't you tell us how about that putter you made?
Yes. It was very special to make this with you. We handmade this, like Dogi handmade this, and it was just very special for me to do that with you over a weekend.
What's that made out of?
Mesquite wood.
Mesquite wood, that's
Yes.
hard to work with.
And we had to put weights in to make it a little bit heavier, and some lead tape to make it stronger. And my uncle actually made an aluminum milled insert for the putter.
It's a big deal because he came to the house and all I did was tell him how to use the tools, and he made this putter. And we sat around. One of the hardest parts was making this shaft at the right angle. So we would stand there and he'd say, it's got to be this angle, it's got to be this angle. I'd say, I don't know if I can maintain that. But we finally got done and he said, it's perfect.
It was absolutely perfect.
Then we went in the house after the glue dried and he putted with it, and we had a putting, one of those things you get at home, and he putted it in the hole the first shot.
And just, it's very special to me.